At 3:03 p.m. yesterday, a farmer in Negros Oriental watched his sugarcane fields disappear under a wall of superheated gas racing down Mount Canlaon at 60 miles per hour. The pyroclastic flow didn't stop there. It kept going, igniting everything in its path, while a towering ash column punched through the clouds at 17,000 feet. I'm Irina Bondarenko, and what happened next has volcanologists across the Pacific Rim on high alert. Because this wasn't just another eruption. Seismic stations from Japan to Indonesia started picking up synchronized tremors within hours. The Ring of Fire is responding to Canlaon's call. But here's what's keeping scientists awake tonight. If this is the trigger event they've been warning about, how many volcanoes will answer? And are we watching the first domino fall in a chain reaction that could reshape the entire Pacific? The sleeping giant of Negros Mount Canlaon doesn't just dominate the landscape of Negros Island, it defines it. This 8,087-foot stratovolcano sits at the heart of a region known for its biodiversity and agricultural bounty. Sugar plantations circle its base like a sweet collar, while dense forests climb its middle slopes. For centuries, locals have called it the Beautiful Mountain, a misleading nickname for what Philippine volcanologists classify as one of the country's most dangerous active volcanoes. What makes Canlaon particularly treacherous is its unpredictability. Unlike other volcanoes that give weeks or months of warning signs, Canlaon has a history of explosive eruptions with minimal warning. The 400,000 people living in communities surrounding the volcano have grown dangerously comfortable with their volatile neighbor. A history of violence. Canlaon's recorded eruption history dates back to 1866, with at least 30 documented eruptions over the past 150 years. Most have been relatively modest, but several stand out for their ferocity. In June 1969, Canlaon unleashed a phreatic eruption that killed 74 hikers who were caught near the summit. The explosion was so sudden that they had no time to escape the scorching ash and debris. December 2017 marked another significant event when Canlaon generated a phreatomagmatic eruption, sending ash 2 kilometers skyward. Multiple pyroclastic flows, those deadly currents of superheated gas and volcanic matter, raced down the southeastern flanks, forcing the evacuation of nearly 90,000 residents from surrounding municipalities. Yet these pale in comparison to the 1996 eruption. On August 10th that year, Canlaon exploded with such force that ash reached 5 kilometers into the atmosphere. The sound of the explosion echoed across neighboring islands, with the ash cloud visible from Manila, 500 kilometers away. Several villages were buried under volcanic debris, requiring massive rehabilitation efforts. What happened yesterday breaks all previous patterns. At precisely 3:03 p.m. local time, seismic monitors detected a rapid series of volcanic earthquakes. Within minutes, a massive explosive eruption began, generating an ash column that quickly surpassed historical heights. According to the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, PIVI-OLCS, this eruption produced an ash column reaching approximately 17,000 feet, 5.2 kilometers, above the summit. Multiple simultaneous pyroclastic flows descending in several directions. Ashfall affecting communities as far as 30 kilometers from the volcano. Sustained eruptive activity continuing for hours, rather than the typical shorter explosions, Dr. Teresito Bacolcol, director of PHIVOLCS, described the situation in stark terms. We're observing sustained pyroclastic flows that have traveled beyond 6 kilometers and show no signs of stopping. This continuous emission pattern is unprecedented in Canlaon's recorded history. The pyroclastic flows, superheated avalanches of gas, ash, and rock fragments moving at hurricane speeds, have destroyed everything in their path. These flows reach temperatures of 400 to 700 degrees Celsius and move faster than anyone can run. Several farming communities in the direct path were evacuated just minutes before being engulfed. The Ring of Fire connection. What truly distinguishes this eruption isn't just its local intensity, but its apparent connection to the broader Pacific Ring of Fire, a 40,000-kilometer horseshoe of intense seismic and volcanic activity. Within hours of Canlaon's eruption, seismic instruments throughout Southeast Asia began detecting unusual patterns. Mount Mayon, 340 kilometers north, registered a swarm of 37 volcanic earthquakes. Taal Volcano near Manila showed increased hydrothermal activity. Sensors near Mount Bulusan detected ground deformation. Even Japan's iconic Mount Fuji, thousands of kilometers away, showed subtle shifts in its deep magma system. Dr. Eric Clemetti, volcanologist at Denison University, explained via satellite interview, "What we're seeing suggests a potential pressure wave propagating through the deep crust. It's as though Canlaon's massive energy release has redistricted stresses across a significant portion of the Pacific Plate boundary." The Ring of Fire contains approximately 75% of the world's active volcanoes. If Canlaon's eruption truly represents the first domino in a cascading sequence, the implications could be catastrophic on a regional or even global scale. The Philippines National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council reports that over 70,000 people have already been evacuated, with that number likely to increase as pyroclastic flows continue to threaten new areas. Ashfall has blanketed at least 12 municipalities, destroying crops and contaminating water supplies. La Carlota City, with a population of 63,000, sits directly in the path of the most vigorous pyroclastic flows. Mayor Reynaldo Jalandoni ordered a complete evacuation yesterday, stating, "We've never seen Canlaon like this. The mountain is literally eating our farmlands." The economic impact is already severe. Negros Occidental and Oriental provinces account for over 60% of Philippine sugar production. With plantations now buried under volcanic ash and debris, global sugar prices spiked 12% overnight. The Philippines also produces 60% of the world's coconut oil, much of it from regions now affected by ashfall. Three aspects of this eruption particularly concern scientists. First, the duration. Most of Canlaon's historical eruptions lasted hours, or at most a few days. The current eruption shows no signs of diminishing after 24 hours of sustained activity. Second, the simultaneous multidirectional pyroclastic flows. Typically, pyroclastic flows follow predictable paths down one or two flanks. Canlaon is currently generating flows down all sides of the volcano, suggesting a complete destabilization of the summit. Third, the apparent triggering effect across the Philippine volcanic belt and beyond. Dr. Hiroshi Shinohara from Japan's Geological Survey notes, "The speed at which we detected pressure changes at distant volcanoes suggests the interconnectivity of these systems is far more direct than our models predicted. If this eruption follows the pattern of other VEI-4 Volcanic Explosivity Index events, we can expect continued explosive activity for days to weeks. Potential for larger summit explosions as new magma reaches the surface, progressive collapse of portions of the volcanic edifice, formation of new vents and explosion craters. Significantly expanded pyroclastic flow hazard zones. More concerning is the potential for sympathetic eruptions elsewhere along the Ring of Fire. Historical records suggest that major volcanic events sometimes cluster in time, possibly due to subtle stress changes transmitted through Earth's crust. The Global Volcanism Program has issued an unprecedented multi-volcano alert, noting temporal correlation between Canlaon's eruption and increased activity at distant volcanic systems requires immediate investigation. Canlaon's eruption represents far more than a localized disaster. Here's what's at stake. Over 150 million people live within 100 kilometers of potentially affected volcanoes across the Philippines, Japan, and Indonesia. Major shipping lanes through Southeast Asia could face disruption from ash clouds. The electronic supply chain, heavily dependent on Philippine and Japanese manufacturing, faces significant disruption. Sustained ash emissions could temporarily affect regional climate patterns as pyroclastic flows continue to reshape Canlaon's slopes and the ash column maintains its impressive height. Volcanologists worldwide are monitoring for signs of a cascading effect across the Pacific. Canlaon isn't finished. PHIVOLCS maintains alert level 4, indicating hazardous eruption is ongoing. Evacuation orders remain in effect for communities within 14 kilometers of the summit, and air travel across the central Philippines has been severely disrupted. If you're wondering what this means for global volcanic activity, stay with us at Earth Attacks for continuing coverage. We'll bring you expert analysis and real-time updates as this situation develops. Remember to subscribe for breaking alerts. When the Ring of Fire speaks, we're listening. Hit that notification bell now, because when it comes to understanding our planet's most powerful forces, knowledge isn't just power, it's survival. Join our community of Earth science enthusiasts as we track what could be the most significant volcanic event of the decade.